just a simple man working on the land.
Okay, weapons and protection. This isn't going to be very long-winded. As I said before, I live in New York City. I am legally not allowed to own a firearm. Um, yeah, it's a city. Lots of people do. Lots of people can hide it. I could just drive out to Long Island and go buy one and hide it, but I'm not going to do that. I have more integrity than that, and I am a civil servant, and I wear a badge at my job, and I'm not going to do that. That's a choice that I've made by opting to live in the city. I wasn't born here. I moved here as an adult, my own free will, knowing full well that I couldn't own a firearm. Where I used to live, same state, I used to live in New York, but upstate. Before I moved, I was actually in process of had submitted an application and it was in process for a CNC, and canceled that application when I decided to move, knowing full well what I was in for. And that's a personal choice. It's a concession I make. I am a true blooded to the heart, full supporter of the Second Amendment. And if my life were any different and I could change it in any way, absolutely, I would live in a will have state. Not probably. I probably wouldn't even go to a may have state. I would move to a will have state. That's just me. But so I'm not gonna. I don't want to start the discussion now about that. But just suffice it to say, I do not own any firearms. I can't own any firearms. At least not where I am in my life right now. So with that being said, I need to find alternatives. There's not many alternatives to a firearm when it comes to weaponry, but you can make attempts. Basically, close-up self-defense. I can't have anything that shoots. I mean, technically, I'm not. You can't have airsoft rifles. Paintball guns are used. That's pointless. BB guns are illegal. So anything that fires projectiles essentially is not legal to have in New York City. Essentially, like eskrima sticks, Kubotan sticks, the slingshot that I'm still waiting on that to be delivered too. I found it a really good one, but that's really not for weapon. That's obtaining that for hunting purposes, but it could be. Batons, sticks. If you really want to go so far as to like try and carry like a sword, good luck with that. Trying to walk through the city with a sword strapped to your back. Considerations to make. Firearms are a very personal decision. Political values, religious values, whatever they may be, you've got to make that decision for yourself and your family. The only thing I will say, and especially as an emergency medical provider, and excuse my French, the shit that I have seen in my years on the streets, for the love of God, if you're going to own a weapon, please be responsible. That's all I'm going to say. That's just my little soapbox. Just do it responsibly. Please. Please. Comfort items. Like I said when I was making my list before, entertainment is a consideration. Comfort items come with that too. You got to be very use a lot of I don't think discretion is the right word, but be careful what you're going to take for comfort items. They take up a lot of space, and you really have to make a value judgment as to how much you really need that comfort item. Because for everything that you put in there that's not essential, necessary, like truly necessary for you to live and survive and sustain, you're taking away that space in your pack. You're adding that weight to your pack to what you're going to carry around. It's a decision you have to make. If you're willing to carry the extra weight, by all means, have at. And like I said, I consider all these things from my perspective, that everything I'm taking, everything that I own in the world will be strapped onto my back. If your plan is to be in a vehicle, you've got a million more options. If your plan is to stay home, you've got a million more options. If you have an RV, you've got even more options. I don't have those options. That's not part of my plan. So I need to be even more cognizant of those decisions. So essentially, they're all subjective. There's no objective view that anybody can have on comfort items that you choose to keep in your kit for preparedness for what's going to matter to you. Everybody's got a different comfort item. So you just got to decide how much are you willing to sacrifice in the space that you have available to you, in the weight that you want to carry, the effort to maintain it, etc., etc. And these are like entertainment items, electronics if you do carry them, to the point of an iPod. Outside of my career, music is my life. I spent many years as a DJ. Music is my world outside of what I do to put food on my table and preparing to stay alive if the end of days comes. Music is my world. I still haven't decided whether I'm even going to bring an iPod. I mean, it's just, that's a personal thing. Hygiene products. It's a very hygiene oriented world with advertising and just the way humanity is, in first world problems, hygiene issues. At the end of the day, hygiene means something very, very, very different in an end of days, I'm never coming home, end of the world, emergency scenarios. There are not a lot of the things that you would think to bring, you do not need to bring in terms of the hygiene that keeps you healthy, hygiene that keeps you comfortable, hygiene that keeps you smelling nice, hygiene that keeps you a little bit cleaner, are actually comfort items. It's going to be tough for some people to grasp. They're actually comfort items. You need to focus on the hygiene that will keep you clean enough to not become sick and ill and infected. Those are the hygiene items to focus on. Anything past that are comfort items. I have sacrificed quite a bit of space in my kit for comfort hygiene items. Not a lot. I mean, I'm not like carrying around like, a bag, but my kit could probably be half or a third the size that it is in my hygiene kit if I focused on only the things that were absolutely essential. I got a lot of extra stuff in there. Choice that I made. And then we go back to like the 5 redundant C's that I talked about from Dave Canterbury before. If you're going to spend time to duplicate items, I've got a number of items that I've duplicated or have redundancies in my kit, and I'm willing to make that sacrifice and weight just for the added assurance that it's there and usable. Real quick, I'll make a point about seasonal considerations. Talked about at the beginning. I mean, everybody in the country knows what kind of winter this is now. This isn't just a Northeast thing anymore. I mean, you got snow and freezing temperatures down into like Georgia and the Carolinas. That it just is ridiculous. So a lot of your preparations depend on seasonal considerations and environmental changes. Obviously, if you live in Arizona, you don't really need to consider pack space for balaclavas and beanies and gloves and face masks and underwear, stuff like that. Not really much of a consideration for you. Not as much as it is if you live in the Northeast, or you live in Wisconsin, or you know what I mean? Make those considerations. So clothing and shelter are obviously your biggest concerns when it comes to that. And yeah, okay, we'll just leave it at that. That's a lot of people. That's more common sense stuff. You really just need to learn to weigh your concessions when you're piling up your kit and you're piling up all the things. Every decision that you make in your preparedness, there's a concession that comes with it. Weight versus mobility. The more shit I cram in that pack. This V90 Battleship backpack from Eberly Stock that I'm looking at, I'm going to put a link to it and I'll show you some pictures. It's not the largest backpack on the face of the planet. Maybe it's the second or third largest backpack. There's a reason it's called the Battleship. I think you can max this thing out at like 120 liters of packable space. Everything that I pack in there is going to take away from the mobility that I have to carry it. I gotta consider that, and those are concessions that I need to weigh very, very, very seriously and make. Concessions like if you're not going to be, if a vehicle is not part of your bug out plan, that means you're either on foot or on bicycle, maybe a motorcycle. I don't know. Concessions you need to make, and that's a huge difference. What you can pack into the back of an SUV is like 20 times greater than what I can put on my back. Um, are you doing this all by yourself, solo? Or are you doing it as a group, as a family? Do you have like a tight knit prepper community? They're out there. I don't have one because I don't know anybody who really is. But some people's plans are very much based on a community effort of these 20 people will band together, and that's the backbone of their preparedness. Me, I'm stuck. It's me, all me, and nothing but the me. That's it. Um, you know, More concessions. Are you bugging in? You bugging out? We've talked a little bit about that before. And weapons, no weapons. Um, Concession I'm forced into, not that I've made, not a choice that I've made. If you are someone who, if it is your personal beliefs, and I'm making no judgments on anybody's belief system, on what they value, what they think is right and wrong. Everybody's got to make those choices for themselves. If you have decided that there is no place in your world and your preparedness for firearms, that's your choice. Understand what comes with it. You're not going to have the security and the protection that someone with a firearm will. We can go on, and there's many discussions that can be had from that. Think about it. That's all I'm saying. And along with that is how you carry is as important as what you carry as a concept. If your plan is you live in, a city or like kind of a suburban area, and your bug out plan is to head off to the mountains to a cabin that you own, how are you going to get there? How are you going to get your stuff there? You're going to walk there, you're going to drive there, you're going to take a horse. What are you going to use to carry your stuff? You're going to use a backpack. You're going to use a duffel bag, loadout bag, luggage, shopping cart. I mean, what? Think these things through. How are you going to utilize your resources? If your plan consists of using your car, I have a Ford Explorer. I can pack a lot of crap in there if I want, especially for being just me. I mean, I could pack a large percentage of all the physical objects that I own and take them with me. I live in New York City. Okay, for me to get anywhere viable as part of my plan, I have to cross a large body of water, a bridge or a tunnel. If the end of days is coming, natural disaster, anything of that sort is coming, I guarantee you, I'm not getting out of this city in a vehicle, especially not my own. The just the daily, everyday morning rush hour traffic is bad enough that it can take you 2 or 3 hours to get from one side of the river to the other, and that's just a normal day. It's just Tuesday morning. When the world's coming to an end, and 4 million drivers are trying to get off this godforsaken island, it ain't happening. I'm not even going to try. That's my situation. We talked about the disposability factor of things. Combustion engines. Fuel runs out. It doesn't even have to be that serious. It happened with Sandy. It's not that there was no fuel left. The fuel couldn't get to the city. The shipping lanes through the oceans were cut off. The trucking lanes were shut off. New York City had no fuel for cars for like 3 weeks. I got very lucky being a city employee and a public service specialist, that the city had special things set up for us. That I got fuel so that I could get to work because I'm considered an essential employee to the workings of the city. But most people, people saw it all over the news. Gas lines for miles and hours. And the first couple days, I was in those lines too, because they didn't set up those special consideration lines for EMS and police and firefighters for a number of days. And I was stupid because I wasn't prepared, because I was in the midst of filming a television show that week when the hurricane hit, and was not in my daily routine. It was not in my life, in my daily life, and hadn't thought about the fact that I only had like a quarter tank of gas left in the car when that hurricane hit, and I was fucked because I wasn't prepared. That was stupid on me. And I suffered from it too. The second night after the hurricane, I spent like 4 hours in a gas line, and never ended up getting gas that night anyway, because it's a disaster. Make these considerations. If you're gonna bug out in a car, know that something can happen to the car. It can break down. You can run out of gas. If your bug out location is 400 miles away, and you get 200 miles to the tank, and there's no gas left, you're not going to make it to your bug out location in your car. And if if your preparations are dependent on the space and the portability of what you can fit into a car, and that car breaks down halfway to your destination, do you see where I'm going with this? You're going to be screwed. If you pack 7 bags of huge bags of luggage into the back of your car, and your car breaks down, well, guess what? 6 of those bags are, write them off. They're gone. They're not part of your plan anymore because you can't carry them with you. I'm not taking that chance. If I can get out of here in my car, damn right I'm trying. But I'm prepared that I don't have to. That's the difference. Make those considerations. Um, you know, these are the things that I think about. And maybe it's because I'm an urban prepper. Maybe these are things that I don't have to consider if I'm, living out in the middle of nowhere. Maybe your transportation issues are different. If it's not part of your plan, if your plan is to bug in, not really a big deal, is it?